There are various types of gangs operating in Ireland at the moment in all our major cities. They are punks, mods, rockers, Teds, greasers, futuristics, new romantics, blitz kids, skinheads, Rudy skinheads, boot boys, Hells Angels, bikers and scam boys. And we have some representatives of various gangs on the programme tonight.
The 1980s were a massive neon roller coaster trip through politics, pop culture, and some very questionable fashion choices. Imagine that the globe is still getting over the disco hangover from the 70s and the 80s. People have abandoned platforms and bell-bottoms in favor of slim ties and excessive amounts of hairspray. Even if the Cold War is still simmering in the background, something feels little more electric these days.
Next we have John Fiddler, who is 20, and he's a first-year student of fashion and textiles at the National College of Art and Design. He's from Killiney, the eldest of 2 children. It says here he's been dressing strangely for 5 years.
Now meet Pac-Man, this tiny yellow circle with a strange ability to avoid ghosts and an undying desire for dots. When Pac-Man fever strikes in October 1980, people all over the world are crouched over arcade games, keeping an eye out for Blinky, Pinky, Inky, and Clyde while attempting to surpass their record. It's like nothing the world has ever seen before. A certain royal event is going to sweep the world by storm while everyone is busy gobbling dots and dodging ghosts. 1981 London is the center of attention. The timid kindergarten teacher Lady Diana Spencer is being married to Prince Charles, the bachelor of the century, with more silk and glitter than you can shake a scepter at. This is the wedding of the decade, if not the century. People throughout the UK set aside time for a national holiday to witness the fairy tale being told at St. Paul's Cathedral. Approximately 750 million people watch from all over the world, some in their pajamas, some with tea and scones, and all attempting to get a glimpse of Diana's enormous train, which appears to have required its own postal code. Although everything about the wedding is picture perfect, you can practically hear the press preparing for the reality spectacle that will soon begin. While all of this elegant fanfare is going on, another legend is quietly fading away. On May 11, 1981, Bob Marley, the reggae music king, passes away. He is the one who taught us to be cheerful and not to worry. Marley's death left the globe a little less rhythmic. His music had served as the revolutions and good vibes soundtrack. He didn't simply sing about love and peace, he actually lived it, which is why his passing was so devastating. However, life moves on, and by 1982, people were actually becoming square. Let us introduce you to the Rubik's Cube, the vibrant, twisted puzzle that everyone is suddenly attempting to solve. Everyone is preoccupied with matching up the colors, including adults, kids, and grandparents. The smug gratification of solving the puzzle is only surpassed by the pain of making the same mistakes repeatedly. The first compact disc, or CD as we call it, is released by Billy Joel's 52nd Street in October 1982.
But this is no ordinary disc, just 12 centimeters in diameter. The music is recorded onto it digitally, and there's no needle being dragged through a groove. That information is being read by a laser light.
Suddenly, the sound of the music is more futuristic, clear, and crisp. Even while CDs can scratch easily and are annoying when their favorite song skips like a child on a sugar high, they're still preferable to vinyl or cassettes. Moreover, CDs are spherical and glossy, which is clearly really awesome. The compact music of the future is here. 5 astronauts aboard the STS-7 space shuttle in 1983 in order to carry out a satellite deployment mission. Since this is the first time a crew of 5 has entered space together, it's a historic occasion. These pioneers are floating around in zero gravity, living the dream. Those back on Earth are literally sweating, thanks in part to Jane Fonda, who released her exercise tape.
Are you ready to do the workout? Yeah!
The fitness craze of the 1980s is well and truly underway. All of a sudden, spandex is in, and it's not only for superheroes. As folks hit the gyms or put in their VHS tapes for some real aerobic action, leotards, leg warmers, and headbands become the look of the day. There is a lot of competition in the packed jazz workout courses, as people strive to out-squat, out-lunge, and outstretch one another. A dark force is gathering in the fashion industry. During his victory tour on July 7, 1984, Michael Jackson unveils the sparkling white glove that would go on to become his most recognizable accessory to the entire world. This glove is not your average glove. It has 50 LEDs embedded in it, giving it a diamond-like glitter. The glove ends up becoming associated with Michael Jackson's brand and is so rare that it eventually costs a cool $190,000. Apple is releasing a new kind of bomb on the planet in the meantime. The renowned Macintosh computer commercial was aired at the 1984 Super Bowl, which aims to alter the way we live, work, and play. By 1985, the behemoth of carbonated drinks, Coca-Cola, chooses to tamper with perfection and introduces new Coke. The people responded with such ferocity that it seemed as though they were trying to replace Santa Claus with the Easter Bunny. People detest it. After a few months of Coke drinkers' revolt, the business is compelled to reintroduce the old recipe under the name Coca-Cola Classic. The world is drawn to yet another iconic picture that year. The National Geographic cover featuring the Afghan girl with her eerie emerald eyes. This image becomes a well-known representation of the refugee crisis and the beauty that can be found in the most hopeless circumstances. Amidst all of this, a number of the biggest names in music come together to write "We Are the World," which goes on to become one of the decade's most recognizable songs. This 45-star collaboration, which was recorded in January 1985, aims to raise money for aiding the famine in Africa, with vocals from Michael Jackson, Bob Dylan, and Diana Ross. Among others, the song becomes an anthem of generosity and optimism that sells millions of copies, demonstrating the power of music to truly transform lives. However, 1986 saw not one but two tragedies. The Chernobyl nuclear reactor in Ukraine breaks down on April 26, spewing toxic particles into the sky. There are immediate fatalities, long-term health effects, and decades-long environmental damage as a result of the devastating fallout.
3, 2, 1, and liftoff. Liftoff of the 25th Space Shuttle mission, and it has cleared the tower.
A few months prior, on January 28th, the 7 crew members of the Space Shuttle Challenger perished in an explosion that occurred soon after takeoff. The country is in disbelief since a large number of people watched Krista McAuliffe, the first teacher in space, as she was scheduled to transmit teachings from orbit. In an emotional speech, President Reagan attempts to console the nation's sorrows, but the tragedy serves as a sobering reminder of the dangers associated with exploration. The end of the decade isn't much kinder. The stock market falls on October 19, 1987, on what becomes known as Black Monday. The financial world freaks out when the Dow Jones Industrial Average falls more than 500 points. The economy is shaken by the crisis, which is the greatest one-day decline since 1914. As if that weren't enough, when The Simpsons makes its television premiere as a short on The Tracy Ullman Show, the globe is exposed to a different kind of future. This dysfunctional cartoon family will soon become a cultural powerhouse, influencing everything from language to family dynamics, a fact that nobody realizes at the moment. The battle wind begins to blow menacingly by 1988. In an awful act of repression, Saddam Hussein's Iraq uses chemical weapons on the Kurdish minority. The world begins to focus more on the Middle East, which creates the conditions for wars that will define the next decade. When Nintendo releases the Game Boy on April 21, 1989, children all around the world are given a new excuse to ignore their parents. People can now play their favorite games, like Tetris, on the go thanks to this portable device, which is truly changing the game. The Game Boy, which has sold 118 million copies over the years, is evidence that sometimes the finest things really do come in little packages. Though the 1980s are coming to an end, several significant events will still occur. A lone man defies the Chinese authorities in June 1989 by standing in front of a row of tanks at Tiananmen Square, Beijing. The Tank Man picture becomes one of the most powerful symbols of resistance, even as the world watches in horror as thousands of people are killed in the savage crackdown on pro-democracy protesters. And then something extraordinary occurs as the decade comes to an end. On November 9, 1989, the Berlin Wall, the ultimate emblem of the Cold War, falls. The world watches as people dance on the debris, break off chunks of the wall as collectibles, and celebrate the end of decades of division as East and West Germany start the process of reunification. The 1980s were a time of extremes, with the collision of global politics, music, and technology that still has an impact on society today. And just as the world breathes a sigh of relief with the end of Cold War tensions, something else is waiting on the horizon. The 90s are just around the corner, and with it comes the rise of grunge music, the birth of the World Wide Web, and brace yourself, the reign of the internet and all its chaos.